Something is happening inside Genoa City that has fans absolutely reeling right now because a man who has already been stabbed once is now fighting for his life all over again, and the person responsible may have just walked straight past hospital security wearing a nurse's uniform. Wait, what? How does that even happen? How does a supposedly guarded hospital room become the site of an attempted second attack, and why does it feel like nobody in this town can catch a break? Stick with me, because by the end of this, you are going to understand exactly why Ashley Abbott is coming home with fire in her eyes, and why one shocking Victor Newman announcement is about to change everything. Hey everyone, welcome back to Soap Pulse. I'm Anderson, and if you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, now's the time, because we've got your early spoilers for the week of July 13th through the 17th, and trust me, you do not want to miss this one. Let's set the stage, because context matters here. Jack Abbott, the patriarch everyone loves, the man who has survived more Genoa City chaos than almost anyone else on this canvas, is currently lying in a hospital bed after being brutally attacked. According to the information circulating from insiders following the show closely, he has lost a significant amount of blood, and things are being described as precarious. That's not a word writers use lightly. Precarious means we genuinely do not know if Jack Abbott is going to make it through this storyline alive, and that uncertainty is exactly what's driving fans into a frenzy right now. So, who's responsible? This is where it gets messy, and where the show seems to be deliberately building a web of contradictions. Publicly available spoiler information suggests that Patty, Jack's ex-wife with a long and disturbing history of violence toward him, is the one who actually carried out this attack. But here's the twist that's making everyone's blood boil. Diane, Jack's current wife, is the one being charged for it. How does that happen? How does the actual perpetrator walk free while an innocent woman takes the fall? Part of the answer seems to trace back to a figure named Dr. Markham, described as Patty's psychiatrist, who reports suggest may have played a significant role in helping build the case against Diane. Michael, ever the sharp legal mind in this town, is reportedly stunned that DA Christine isn't focusing on Patty's obviously violent history and her well-documented fixation on Jack. Instead, Christine appears convinced that Patty was properly released from psychiatric care and that the evidence, as she sees it, points toward Diane instead. Now, if you know anything about how these stories usually unfold, you already sense something is deeply wrong here. Michael insists that Patty's account is full of holes and frankly implausible, and he's raising serious questions about whether Dr. Markham can even be trusted. According to what's being reported, Michael describes Markham as sketchy, someone who may have essentially held Diane hostage, someone whose behavior sounds just as troubling as Patty's own. Christine, for her part, seems to be standing firm, insisting that Michael needs actual evidence to clear Diane, to which Michael reportedly fires back with a reminder that the burden of proof is supposed to work the other way around. Innocent until proven guilty. It's a tense standoff, and it's raising a bigger question the whole town seems to be asking. Is the district attorney's office chasing the wrong woman entirely? Meanwhile, family tensions are boiling over in a completely different corner of Genoa City. Billy is reportedly updating Jill and Sally on Jack's condition, and Jill's reaction is one of pure shock, especially when she learns that Patty is out and roaming free. Billy apparently doesn't hold back, placing blame squarely on Victor Newman for bringing Patty back into town in the first place. And Jill, according to reports, agrees. If Victor really did orchestrate Patty's return, she believes he needs to pay for what has happened to Jack. That's a serious accusation floating around this canvas, and it's one that's likely to have consequences reaching far beyond just Jack's hospital room. But Jill isn't just here for the drama surrounding Patty. She's got her own agenda, and it's colliding hard with Billy's patience. She wants him focused on Sally and the baby, yet she can't help herself from asking about Sally's company, and then, almost immediately after, about Kane's job offer at Chancellor, something Sally apparently already told her about. Billy, according to the reports, isn't thrilled about the interrogation. Jill doubts he could ever tolerate answering to Kane at work, and Billy's response is sharp. He accuses his own mother of being obsessed with Chancellor, suggesting she doesn't actually care about him as a person. That's a gut punch. Jill reportedly says it breaks her heart, and she's visibly upset that Billy didn't even tell her about the baby or his engagement to Sally. It's the kind of moment that makes you wonder, has Jill really lost touch with her son, or is Billy pushing away the one person trying to reconnect? Billy eventually takes off to bring food to Kyle and Diane at the hospital, leaving Jill behind, wrestling with her own guilt and uncertainty. She reportedly doesn't want to leave Genoa City while things between her and Billy remain this unsettled, and she also wants to be sure Jack is truly safe before she goes. After Billy exits, Sally apparently steps in to try to smooth things over between herself and Jill, which adds yet another layer to this fragile family dynamic. Is Sally trying to keep the peace for Billy's sake, or does she have her own reasons for wanting Jill on her side? Now, let's go back to the hospital, because this is where the real tension is building. While Michael and Christine argue over evidence and motive, Lauren shows up, and Christine reportedly takes off rather than continuing the conversation. Lauren's on her way to meet with Jill, and once she's alone with Michael, he tells her plainly that things are looking really bad for Diane. Lauren, according to reports, can't believe Christine is falling for what she sees as Patty's manipulative nonsense. Both of them are reportedly worried about something much bigger than a legal technicality. What if Jack doesn't wake up in time to clear Diane's name? Or worse, what if he doesn't wake up at all? That fear isn't just theoretical, it's echoed by Diane herself, who's reportedly venting to Kyle about Patty being free, terrified that what she calls a dangerous woman will come back to finish the job on Jack. Diane apparently lays it all out for Kyle. Patty set up the entire scene so the evidence would implicate her, and somehow Christine fell for it. Diane also reportedly claims that Dr. Markham lied specifically to help frame her, which, if true, raises the disturbing possibility that this wasn't just one person's scheme, but a coordinated effort involving multiple people determined to see Diane go down for a crime she didn't commit. Kyle, understandably frustrated, points out that he hasn't even been questioned yet, despite being Diane's alibi. But Diane suspects investigators won't trust his word given that he's her son. It's a fair concern, and it highlights just how stacked the situation is against her. Her only real hope, according to what's being reported, is that Jack wakes up and confirms the truth himself. While Jack is taken away for scans, Diane and Kyle reportedly decide to head home and pack a bag for him, fully intending to rush back to the hospital as quickly as possible. And this is exactly where the story takes its most chilling turn. Kyle had hired a guard to keep watch outside Jack's room, but according to the information circulating, that guard isn't doing a particularly good job, because somehow Patty manages to slip inside Jack's room completely undetected, disguised as a nurse. Let that sink in for a second. A woman with a documented history of violence against this man walks right past hospital security and ends up alone in the room with her unconscious ex-husband. What happens next is genuinely unsettling. Reports indicate that Patty begins talking almost incoherently to Jack while he lies there unconscious, telling him that she hates what she has to do next. But her reasoning, twisted as it is, seems to be that she simply cannot allow him to wake up and reveal the truth about who really attacked him. And then comes the moment that's sending shockwaves through the fan community. Patty is reportedly holding a syringe filled with something clearly dangerous, and she appears fully prepared to inject it into Jack while he's completely defenseless. Meanwhile, over in a much lighter corner of the canvas, Thursday's developments show Kane revealing a different, softer side of himself to Lily, and according to reports, the chemistry between them is intensifying in every scene they share. Kane and Lily reportedly meet with Holden to discuss his future plans, and when he admits he has no real direction yet, it sets up what looks like an upcoming job offer from Kane at Chancellor. It's easy to imagine how thrilled Lily might be if that happens, but don't get too comfortable with the softer moments because we are far from finished unpacking everything building toward the week of July 13th. There's a job offer that could reshape family loyalties, a returning Abbott sister who's coming home for anything but a happy reunion, a Newman family announcement that reportedly leaves everyone stunned, and a syringe hovering over an unconscious man whose fate remains completely unknown. So the real question becomes, does Kyle make it back in time? Does anyone stop Patty before it's too late? And what exactly is Victor about to reveal that has the entire Newman family reeling? That's where we're headed next, and trust me, it only gets more intense from here. So let's pick up right where we left things hanging, because if you thought Wednesday and Thursday brought chaos, Friday, July 10th, is about to raise the stakes even further, and it starts with a woman who's already been through more than most people could survive. Nikki Newman is reportedly at home, settling into her recovery, but let's be honest, nothing about her situation feels settled at all. According to what's circulating, things between her and Victor remain far from fixed, and there's a very real emotional distance sitting between two people who used to be each other's whole world. On top of that personal strain, Nikki is apparently still struggling with the fact that her eyesight has not returned, a detail that adds a heavy layer of vulnerability to everything she's dealing with right now. Imagine trying to process a fractured marriage, a health crisis, and then learning that someone you love may have brought a dangerous, unstable woman back into town, all at the same time. Because that's exactly what's coming. Once Nikki finds out about the attack on Jack, reports suggest she immediately places blame on Victor, and honestly, based on everything we've laid out so far, that blame appears to be entirely justified. If Victor really is the one who brought Patty back to Genoa City, then Nikki connecting those dots isn't paranoia, it's just following the evidence. And that raises an uncomfortable question for longtime viewers. How does a marriage recover when one partner's decisions may have directly endangered someone else's life? And then there's Victor himself. According to early spoiler information, he reportedly makes some kind of announcement on Friday that leaves everybody around him stunned. Now, here's where speculation has to come in, because the details of exactly what he says haven't been confirmed. Is this a personal revelation, something about his health, his marriage, his own guilt? Or is this a professional bombshell, maybe something about stepping back from Newman Enterprises entirely? Some fans following the spoilers closely are wondering if this could even be the beginning of a retirement storyline. We don't know for certain yet, but what we do know is that whatever Victor says on Friday, it's significant enough to shake the entire Newman family to its core. And as if that wasn't enough for one day, Friday also marks the long-awaited return of Ashley Abbott, played by Eileen Davidson, stepping back into Genoa City after time away. She's coming home, and Jack is still alive at this point, which honestly should feel like a small relief. But here's the twist that keeps this story from ever settling into calm waters. If people around Jack aren't watching closely enough, Patty might try to sneak back in for a third attempt at finishing him off. Let that number sink in for a second. A third attempt. This isn't a one-time crime of passion. This is a woman who has now tried, according to reports, on multiple occasions throughout the show's history to end Jack Abbott's life, and once again the people meant to protect him seem to be one step behind her. So now we move into the week of July 13th through the 17th, and this is where all these threads start pulling together into something even more complicated. According to the spoiler information available, Jack is expected to begin showing signs of recovery, moving slowly onto the road back to health. But recovery doesn't mean safety. As long as Patty remains free and unaccounted for, Jack's life is still very much at risk, and so, in a sense, is his marriage to Diane, because until he wakes up and tells the truth, Diane remains the one being punished for a crime reports suggest she never committed. There's real hope circulating among those following the story that Jack won't stay unconscious for much longer, that he'll wake up and finally give Christine and the police the confirmation they need, that Patty is the one who actually stabbed him, and that the case against Diane needs to collapse immediately. Because right now, a lot of people watching this unfold are frustrated with how the investigation has been handled. Christine and her team have been leaning hard into an unlikely theory while apparently ignoring the much more obvious suspect standing right in front of them. Meanwhile, over at Chancellor, there's a workplace shift potentially reshaping this entire side of the canvas. Speculation suggests that Holden may actually accept Kane's job offer, and there's a strong belief circulating that Billy might end up doing the same thing. If that happens, just pause and think about the layers of tension that creates. Remember, Jill already predicted that Billy would struggle badly trying to answer to Kane as a boss, and if this prediction turns out to be accurate, we could be looking at a workplace powder keg. Billy, a man with his own complicated history and pride, potentially reporting to someone he may not fully trust or respect. That's the kind of setup that practically guarantees future fireworks. And back on the home front, once Victor's big announcement lands, expect a wave of reactions rippling through every corner of the Newman family. We're reportedly going to see how each of them processes whatever this news actually is, and Nick in particular seems to be carrying a heavier emotional burden than most. According to early reports, Nick has been holding on to hope that his parents might somehow reconcile, even though Sharon has apparently warned him that she doesn't think that's realistic. That's a small but powerful detail because it shows Nick clinging to something that the people around him can already see slipping away. And here's where the story takes an emotionally heavier turn. If Nikki does place blame on Victor for what happened to Jack, which again, based on everything we've discussed, seems entirely reasonable, that added family stress may become too much for Nick to handle. Reports suggest there's real concern that Nick could backslide and use again. If you've followed Nick's journey over the years, you know this isn't a small detail to gloss over. This is a genuine human stakes storyline sitting right in the middle of all this mansion drama and hospital suspense, and it's a reminder that these characters, fictional as they are, often mirror very real struggles that plenty of viewers understand firsthand. Ashley, for her part, is reportedly happy to be reunited with her family again, even though the circumstances bringing her home are anything but joyful. But according to what's being reported, she won't be sticking around for long. Once Jack is confirmed to be out of the woods, Ashley is expected to head back to Paris. So if you're hoping for an extended Ashley storyline, temper those expectations a little, because this looks like a brief but emotionally charged visit rather than a permanent return. Now, let's shift gears, because not everything happening this week is about hospitals and family betrayal. Kane and Lily are reportedly taking their relationship to the next level soon, and yes, that does mean becoming intimate before too long. And of course, this isn't happening in a vacuum. Devon is expected to react with real anger once this development comes to light, and even Billy is reportedly aggravated that Lily has forgiven Kane so easily and is once again cozying up to him. It raises an interesting question worth sitting with. Why does this particular relationship keep generating so much resistance from the people around them? Is it protectiveness? Is it unresolved history? Or is it something deeper about trust that hasn't fully healed yet? Elsewhere, Audra continues her pursuit of Noah, and according to reports, this is aggravating Sienna more with each passing scene. There's a real possibility that Sienna may eventually lose her patience entirely. Adding fuel to that fire, Noah reportedly isn't setting particularly clear boundaries between himself and Audra, which, if you've ever watched a love triangle unfold on this show, you already know rarely ends quietly. And finally, in what might be one of the messier developments of the week, Matt and Phyllis are reportedly getting closer, and Nick is expected to catch them in a compromising position. It's exactly the kind of twist that makes you groan and keep watching at the same time. So where does that leave us heading into the back half of this story? A syringe hovering over an unconscious man, a district attorney possibly chasing the wrong suspect, a Newman family bracing for an announcement that could change everything, and a handful of relationships teetering right on the edge of implosion. There's still so much more to untangle here, and the biggest questions remain wide open. Does Jack survive this second attempt? Does the truth finally come out before it's too late? And what exactly is Victor about to reveal that has everyone this rattled? Stay with me, because we're getting into the emotional core of this story next, and it might be bigger than anything we've covered so far. So let's bring this all together, because everything we've covered so far has been building toward one central, unavoidable truth. This entire storyline hinges on a single fragile thread: whether Jack Abbott wakes up in time to tell the world what actually happened to him. Think about the layers we've walked through. A man attacked not once, but potentially for a third time by the same disturbed ex-wife. A wife currently facing charges for a crime that, according to everything reported, she did not commit. A psychiatrist whose credibility is now seriously in question. A district attorney who seems to be chasing the wrong person entirely while the real threat still walks free. And a hospital security system so porous that a known danger to Jack's life was able to slip inside his room completely undetected. When you line all of that up, it's hard not to ask the same question fans have been asking all week. How does a town with this much money, this much power, and this much history with Patty's violence keep failing to protect the people she targets? And that's really the emotional gut punch sitting underneath all of this. Diane is fighting for her freedom, while the actual person responsible is roaming Genoa City disguised as hospital staff. Michael is fighting an uphill legal battle against a DA who seems convinced by a narrative built on shaky, possibly manipulated evidence. Kyle is caught in the impossible position of trying to protect both his father and his mother at the same time, all while not even being taken seriously as a witness because of his relationship to Diane. And somewhere in a quiet hospital room, an unconscious man holds the one truth that could unravel everything if only he'd wake up in time. According to the spoiler information making its way through fan circles, there does appear to be light at the end of this particular tunnel. Reports suggest Kyle finds a way to protect both Jack and Diane, potentially by exposing what really happened at Dr. Markham's house, and that Patty's third attempt gets thwarted before it's too late. If that holds true, it would mark a turning point where the truth finally starts working its way to the surface instead of being buried under manipulation and misplaced blame. But even if Jack survives this latest threat, the bigger picture here is far from resolved. Victor's stunning announcement is still looming over the entire Newman family, and depending on what it actually turns out to be, it could reshape relationships we've watched evolve for years. Nikki's justified anger toward Victor isn't going away, and if anything, it's likely to deepen once she learns the full scope of what his decision to bring Patty back to town actually cost. And for Nick, caught in the middle of his parents' unraveling marriage while battling his own vulnerability, this could be the moment that determines whether he holds himself together or loses ground in a fight he's clearly still fighting every single day. Meanwhile, Jill's storyline leaves us with a bittersweet, unresolved ache. A mother desperate to reconnect with her son, running out of time before she has to leave town, colliding with a son who feels like his own mother cares more about a company than she does about him. Whether or not this is truly Lauren Koslow's final episode in the role, as some reports suggest it might be, there's something quietly devastating about a family relationship this fractured, playing out against the backdrop of a near-fatal stabbing and a corporate power struggle at Chancellor. And that's really what makes this particular week of storytelling so compelling. It's not just one crisis, it's an entire ecosystem of consequences, all colliding at once. A returning sister who won't stay long enough to see things through, a romance reigniting even as the people closest to it recoil, a workplace shift that threatens to turn family loyalty into daily conflict, and underneath all of it, one question that keeps pulling viewers back in: what happens when the people meant to deliver justice keep looking in the wrong direction, while the real danger is still standing right there in the room? We still don't know exactly what Victor's announcement will be. We still don't know if Jack wakes up in time to save Diane or what state he'll be in if he does. We still don't know how far Patty is willing to go or whether this town will ever fully close the door on the danger she represents. What we do know is that the week of July 13th through the 17th is shaping up to be one of the most consequential stretches this show has delivered in a long time, and if these spoilers hold true, the fallout is going to stretch far beyond just one hospital room. So that's everything we've got for you on the early spoilers heading into next week. If this breakdown kept you hooked, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what happens when the truth finally starts coming out. Drop your predictions down in the comments. I want to know who you think Victor's announcement is really about and whether you think Jack wakes up in time to save Diane. Until next time, I'm Anderson, and this has been Soap Pulse.